Welcome to the Foundation's Conversation at Home program. I'm Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Before we speak to our guest today, I want to let you know that the Foundation has set up a COVID relief fund in order to support thousands of union performers who are going through tough times. Since March, thanks to your donations, the Foundation has given over $6.2 million in emergency aid to more than 6,600 performers and their families. If you are a SAG member and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Glynn Turman. You know, you've been doing this for so long. I mean, what was it that that inspired you, that got you on your start as a kid? What made you want to become an actor?
As a kid, I didn't want to become an actor. You know, as a kid, I wanted to be Jackie Robinson. But as a kid,
an athlete.
Yeah. So as a kid, I didn't want to be. I wanted to be a ball player. You know. I think I might have told you that Rain Hansberry and my mother were friends. And so that we lived in the same neighborhood. And she informed my mother that there was a play that she had written and that there was a part for a little boy. And I ended up getting that role after an audition. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wasn't inspired to be an actor until I ended up, as a result of talking to a what do you call it, coach? What do you call that? Who's that teacher that tells you, that you talk to say where do you want to go and what do you want to be in your life, and so on. A
counselor.
The counselor, to the counselor, our school counselor said, "Well, Glenn, why don't you try out for the High School of Performing Arts?" And I finally took his advice on that and passed the test, the audition, and made it into that school and got an A in my class. And that was the first time I'd ever got an A. And that's when I decided, you know what, maybe I'm all right at this and maybe I'll try and become an actor. And because it was the first time I'd ever gotten an A, I showed my mother the A. I said, "Mom, look at this, I got an A in school." It's just, I've been trying to tell you, you know. So it's that's what happened.
So then you just had a natural ability.
I reckon so.
I mean, I wonder what type of influence, though. I mean, working on Broadway at that time, you know, and surrounded by so many soon-to-be great, you know, talents like, you know, Sidney Poitier, Ruby Dee. I mean, the list just literally goes on and on. What was that like for you? What type of impression did that make on you at such a young age?
Well, it made a great impression on me. I mean, they were all great people and I had a great time, and this was something out of the norm. It was something I never could have dreamed of was going to happen. You know, I got to meet everybody and heroes in my household, the Black household, they were already here. You know, Sammy Davis Jr. would come backstage, or, you know, Pearl Bailey, or, you know, Harry Belafonte would come backstage, you know, and I knew who all these people were because they were the heroes in our household. We had their records, we had their album covers. I knew, you know, and playing on stage was just fun for me. It was just, you know, a gas going out there and just doing what I would do in the living room at the parties that my folks would throw anyway. They'd always say, "Man, come out here and do something. You and Sandra, my cousin, come on out here and dance, or come on out here and do something. Or Glenn, say that thing you said on such and such and such. And I'd come out in the living room. Well, now all I was doing that same thing for this big space, the theater, and all these hundreds of people sitting out there in the audience. I was just doing the same thing I always did, you know, in the household, just showing off, you know. And, so it was no big thing. The great thing was I could get paid for doing it and help my mother out with we were not in the best of shape at the time, you know, prior to that. And so that helped out, and that made it great. And got to travel, got to go to Chicago, got to go to Philadelphia, you know, New Haven, and spend time on the train, touring the piece, you know. So that was all great, but it was just great fun and something to do. And I really, you know, was more interested in getting back to a baseball game. You know, it was Saturday, you know, and I had to do these 2 shows on Saturday. I was going to miss the game, you know. So I stayed with it for a year and then I quit.
Wow. So it really was just recreation for you.
Yeah. No, it was. It wasn't until that teacher recommended that because I was going to drop out of school. I knew I was going to drop out of junior high. It was time to go to high school. I was a truant. I was a chronic truant. I was starting to get in all kinds of trouble, you know, and, you know, at that age. And so I hated school. And I knew if I went to my neighborhood school, the neighborhood high school with the rest of the guys, it was not going to end well, you know. And so I get to performing arts, and it was a whole different world for me.
So, I mean, what did that do for your self-esteem and your discipline as a young man going to the High School of Performing Arts?
Oh, man, kidding. I graduated at the top of the class. You know, I never played another day of hooky. You know, I met great teachers, Vinette Carroll and you know, Rosalind Shine and Michael Howard. These were all fantastic teachers who encouraged me. It was vital. It was very important because my mother died that next year while I was in high school. And these people were very nourishing. And I had made a promise to her that I would stay in school, and I did, you know, and went the next year and graduated at the top of the class.
So now, what was the next step of your career? Because, of course, I remember you, when I first became aware of you, it was through Coulee High. But what happened after high school, and talk about those initial steps into adult life?
Oh, well, it was, you know, I was married very young, 18 years old, had a family, beating around New York, trying to feed this family, trying to start a career as an actor, because now I was taking it seriously, and had made up my mind, this is what I want to do. And of course, as soon as I made up in my mind that I want to be an actor, of course, another job never came. You know, after raising, I had every job that was ever out there for a teenager. I mean, I had job after job after job. I worked with some more of the greats, you know, and in all these different productions, a lot of live theater, a lot of live television, you know, in those days, you know, Playhouse 90 and David Susskind, and, you know, we do different plays. I was in all of these things. I worked with Robert Redford on something, and Jimmy Kahn. I just saw Jimmy Kahn not too long ago and brought up this, and hadn't seen him since I was a kid, and brought up this production that we did together, and he remembered it, you know, and this is black and white television, you know, so I had done all of these things, but they were flukes. They come to me because I had been on in a Raisin in the Sun and been on Broadway, and they'd say, get that kid that's on Broadway with Sidney Poitier, you know, and what do they want now, you know? But as soon as I committed, as soon as I said, this is the life for me, nothing. Now I'm hustling. I got a kid, I got my wife, I got an apartment that I've got to keep up and rent and light bills and gas bills and everything and all this stuff. And I'm going through the snow in New York, hustling, trying to find a daggone gig and trying to find a job to sustain us through this whole thing. So there I am on the actor's track, you know what I'm saying?
So now what got you out of that rough patch?
Well, I had a job that I was driving a truck. I was a truck driver. And had the thing that was good about this job is it gave me enough leeway. The boss was very lenient. And if I had an audition, I could go to the audition and he wouldn't fire me. I got fired from every other job that I had because I'd go for auditions. You know, if the audition came in the middle of the day, I'd break and go for it. That's the risk you had to take. But this guy, he was cool, you know. But I was driving Gil, seriously, with a truckload. I was a furniture mover, and I had a truckload of furniture and a crew of 3 other guys in the cab. And I was reading. I was the driver, but I was reading backstage for auditions, you know. And I pulled up to a light and continued my reading. And Lloyd Richards, who had directed me in A Raisin in the Sun, was casting for a play at a theater. And I saw this in the paper, and it was that, I said, when? It was that exactly, at that exact time that I was reading it in the truck on 8th Avenue. And I turned the whole truck around with the furniture and everything in it. This lady's furniture. I was supposed to be going to Queens or some damn where. And I turned this entire moving truck around and made a beeline to that theater. And the guys were cussing me out and everything. Turman, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, don't worry about it. We'll get there in time. We'll get there. And I took the key out, pulled up in front of the Clements Church on 47th Street, 48th Street. And Dad ran inside and ran in front of Roger Robinson was there for the audition also. And I asked Roger, I said, Roger, I got to go ahead of you, man. And I went up and I auditioned for Lloyd Richards at that time and got the part again for Lloyd Richards. And I never went back to acting, to other jobs.
Well, so you were going to be an actor or just
do or die, baby, do or die.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And so then after that, I mean, obviously acting, took a hold of you, and you went on to, do television, and obviously.
Well, I did a lot of regional theater. I worked for Tyrone Guthrie at the Tyrone Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. I worked at different theaters. I worked at the Actors Studio for Mr. Strasberg, and then an acting teacher of mine, Burnett Carroll, who was my senior year acting teacher in Performing Arts High School. I got a call from her, she was in California, and she wanted me to come to California and do Slow Dance on the Killing Ground, a play called Slow Dance on the Killing Ground that had been done on Broadway, and she wanted me to do the West Coast version of it. And she flew me out to the company, Inner City Repertoire Theater, flew me out to California. I was supposed to be there for six months, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, still ain't left.
It's 50 years.
Wow. Now, is that the same Inner City that used to be on like Vermont and Pico?
Exact same one.
Yep, I remember going to it as a kid.
Yep, yeah.
Certainly do. So, I mean, so you're out in LA. Doesn't sound like you had a lot of family or friends in California. I mean, how did you make your way in those early days?
Well, I did what you do. I brought I went ahead of my young family. They stayed in New York. And I came out and broke into it. What happened was I ended up on Peyton Place. How that happened was Gregory Peck came down and saw the play that I was doing at the Inner City on Pico in Vermont. He came backstage and introduced himself, and I said, oh my God, this is Gregory Peck. And he went and told some producers at 20th Century Fox about this kid this black kid he saw in this play, and they were looking for a black kid. And it was Edward Chambers and Paul Monash were the producers of Peyton Place. They came down to Inner City, saw me at Inner City, and hired me for Peyton Place, and brought in Ruby Dee and Percy Rodriguez and Judy Pace. And we became the black family on Peyton Place. And the rest is history.
So that show really did change your life.
That show changed my life. I stayed in California as a result of having the means to do that from that show. I brought my family back out. And there we were.
So you were really a grown man in Coulee High. I mean,
I was 21. I was about 20 something years old. Yeah, because I turned 21 in Peyton. I turned 21 in California when I went out to do Peyton, Coulee High.
And that show, I mean, certainly in our community, was definitely a hit. Are you surprised by its influence and the fact that it still resonates with so many people? I mean, nearly 50 years later.
Coulee High?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. No one ever thought that that's what was going to happen. I don't think. But I'm surprised on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm not, because it was so different, and it was so it cast us in such a great light. You have to remember that most of the movies that were coming out at that same time, they're called exploitation movies, but they were what it was is they were all of the same kind of theme, the same kind of story. They were all hustlers and gangsters and shooting and killing and nigga this and that, this, that, and the other. And that was something that we were trying to get away from and trying to get some variety of story. But in the negative light, Coulee High comes along. And it's a different story, and it's promoted differently, and the whole theme is different. And everybody was proud of the fact that we were able to share our experiences as a people with the rest of the world, and show that we had innocence. We had, we were not born gangsters. that we went to school and we had school experiences, we had girlfriends and so on and so forth, and mothers and fathers that worked hard to try to do better for us. And so Coulee High became that beacon that we held up to the world to say, this is who we are.
So, I mean, obviously you had a strong sense of self-identity, but what was it like as a young Black actor with a young family, working in an environment where it seemed like they wanted to keep, Black actors, Black stories in little boxes?
Well, it was tough. It was very tough. It was no component for success to raise a family successfully. It took its toll. Being married too young takes its toll anyway, usually. But with the compounded problems of trying to have an acting career and overcoming the obstacles that affords, made it pretty damn near impossible. And, but at the same time, it's how bad do you want what you want, and how good are you? How long can you tread water? That's what it boils down to. How long can you tread water? And I was able to tread water. And every once in a while, I'd get something that could sustain us and go to the next level.
And then, of course, you were involved in a very high-profile marriage to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, and very much became one of Hollywood's it couples. What was that like?
Well, when it was great, it was
the cover of Ebony and Jet.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. Aretha was a wonderful person. We cared for each other very much right to the very end. I was there the day before she died. I was at her bedside, and but our meeting was a meeting that was a storybook meeting. And I don't know. She was performing at a concert that was being given for Jacqueline Onassis, as a matter of fact. And she and a friend of mine, Ben Vereen, were on the bill. And I was there with Ben because we went to the same high school together. And so while backstage, waiting for Ben to prepare to go on, I was in the halls, and this young man spotted me, and he said, "Oh, Glynn Turman." He said, "Glynn Turman, my mother just loves you." I said, oh, great. I said, who's your mother, kid? And he said, Aretha Franklin. I said, whoa. I said, where is she? And he took me to her dressing room, and she was standing in front of the mirror, Gil, in a white sparkling dress. You know, the big mirrors with the movie star mirrors, you know, with the lights all around. And all that white was glittering, sparkling off her. And she looked in the mirror and saw a reflection of me behind her in the doorway. And she screamed, you know, and like, so I screamed, you know. It was like we was, you know, and so we hit it off right away. And she came to. I was teaching acting at the Inner City Cultural Center. I was teaching down there at that time, and she had just moved to California and was looking for a place to study acting. She said, and so I told her where I was teaching, and she showed up at Inner City. And the people in the class went crazy because this limousine had pulled up on Pico. You know, Pico was that's the hood. You know that was the hood on Pico in Vermont. So we weren't used to seeing the limos pull up. But she pulled up, and everybody was very excited. And she walked into class, and you know, I told her she was late. And so, and we hit it off, and soon we were dating and later married.
Now, your career, you've always, it seems to me, have mixed things up between theater, directing, and acting in, you know, TV, on stage.
That's my secret. I try to spread it around, make it look like a big act, you know?
So do you feel like that has extended your, I would imagine your curiosities about this art form, about your craft?
Well, it extended my longevity, I think. You know, the thing was that I was always working at my craft. I would consider myself a working actor. I wasn't out there to be a movie star. I wasn't trying to become a movie star or a personality. You know, I was trying to become the best actor that I could become, you know. So my seriousness was about perfecting the craft. Once I realized, after all of that backstory, that there was a craft to this, you know, and that there was a technique and there were these things that you could do to become better. That became my focus. And anything that served that is what I was drawn to.
And so I guess in a lot of ways, one sort of fed the other. You know, the directing, the teaching, all
Yes.
served to give you a better understanding, a better command over your gifts as an actor.
You're right.
Do you have a favorite?
Stage. I'm still drawn to stage.
Why do you think that is?
Because you're flying without a net. You know?
No second takes.
No second takes, baby. Get it right or pay the consequence, you know?
Are you surprised by, I mean, I look at the number of hit shows from Peyton Place to A Different World to The Wire to House of Lies. I mean, that you've been a part of so many people's, you know, you've been in their homes for decades, and you have been, I mean, the thing about TV is that it, you know, it comes into your home and these characters become like extended members of your family.
Right.
And you've been in quite a few of them.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that make you feel?
And for a long time. Right.
To know that you've had, that you've earned that type of affection from people. I mean, when people mention you, you know, they mention your name with affection. I just wonder, as an act, both as a person and as an actor, how does it make you feel to know that you have impacted people in such a way?
Well, it makes me feel great, you know, really, really, really blessed, you know. never. I told you how I started. I never would have thought anything like this. You know, I never would have thought that I'd still be doing this, acting. I never thought that I would be in people's homes and the, you know, the world would know me, that I could go places and everybody would know me. You know, so because I didn't set out with that in mind at all.
Now talk about Star Wars and the opportunity to play, or at least audition, for Han Solo.
It was I don't even remember it. I don't even remember let's put it this way, I barely remember it. I barely remember going up for the role. It wasn't until a friend of mine who had read George Lucas's book let me know that George Lucas had been thinking of me for the role of Han Solo, that I had auditioned and he was going to hire me, but then didn't want to get into the racial whatever that could maybe derail what he was trying to do, because there was going to be a romance between Princess Leia and Han Solo, you know.
So not even in outer space.
No, yeah, right. not even out of this world, Gil. Not even in another world.
As a Black actor, how have things gotten different through the decades of your career? You know, from the 70s on to present.
Well, I'm just glad to see that some of the struggles that we were going through and some of the issues that we were tackling have some of them have come around, and we've made great gains. I'm very proud of the young Black actors, and well, not so much the actors, but what we were looking for were the entrepreneurs, the businessmen, the money people, the showrunners, the producers, the directors, the people behind the camera are doing their thing, you know, and we're the writers who are telling our stories, you know, and we are producing our stories. That's what we were, you know, all the fuss was about back in the day, you know, and that's happening now, and it's very, very important that we keep our rudder in that direction and keep our shoulder to the wheel.
Now, this year has been, I mean, an amazing year. I mean, starting with Fargo, season 4 of Fargo. I mean, your character really did anchor this past season. Yeah. I mean, what brought you into that role?
Oh, my managers told me that they had requested me, and talking with Noah Harley later, he said, you know, that he wanted me for that role, you know, and I was glad that he did, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, it was the reason I watched it. Oh. You know, when the character died, I was like, I mean, I stayed with it, but I mean, your character really did drive season 4.
Thank you, Gil. That's kind of you to say it. It was a great character, great, you know, it was all on the page, and I had a ball doing it. I mean, I really had a good time doing him.
Leads me to talk about preparation, because you played so many different types of people. I mean, what is your process in getting connected with a role, getting to understand it?
Well, it's different things. And for Dr. Senator, it was the hat. You know, when I put that hat on in the wardrobe department, I knew I had locked into the character. I knew exactly who he was as soon as I found that hat and I put that hat on. I said, "Oh, this is the guy. This is him." And because I was able to go back to the barber shops, you know, in Harlem when I was a kid, sitting there watching the hustlers and the players come in, you know, and you know, waiting for them to get their haircut or their shoe to shine, you know, and hearing that conversation there, you know. I had a couple of uncles who were in that game, you know, and so whose hats I used to take, you know, when they'd come in and put that hat down, you know, the first thing I'd do is pick up that hat and put it on and flop all over my head. So I knew these men, you know, I knew who he was. I didn't have to look hard at all, you know. And
I mean, but he was more than a hustler. He was a boss.
Yeah, well, he was a boss. Yeah, he was a boss. He was a strong guy. Not only was he a boss, but he was a lawyer. You know, he was a learned, educated man. And, you know, so then I had to find out what was it that made him tick. And it was right there on the page. Noah wrote a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful monologue about him taking the defense prosecution for a war criminal, you know, a Nazi war criminal, and how he was used in that trial just to humiliate the war criminal. But they never expected really any serious consequence, you know. So that affected his outlook on who he was in the world, in spite of his wonderful education, you know. And so he had issues that made him a pretty rough character. He was a rough boy.
And then, of course, you know, playing Toledo in August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which has a lot of people talking awards for you this season. Talk to me about how you became attached to that project.
Well, that was when I had done the stage play in Los Angeles about a year and a half earlier. And Denzel Washington had come down to the theater to see that production that we'd done and came backstage. You know, everybody was just elated to see him and that he had seen the play. And he came over, and we've known each other for years, but he came over and said, you know, hey, Glenn, stay ready. I'm going to do all of August's plays, and I want you to recreate this role in the movie that I'm going to do soon. So stay ready, Glenn. Stay ready. So,
now, why do you think he picked you? What is it about you that made him know that you would be able to embody that dude the way you did?
Well, I don't know. You know, I don't want to sound. I don't know. All I know is I'm glad he did.
Talk about the filming. I mean, you had, George C. Wolfe, Denzel Washington, you who are on, you know, working with, you know, Michael Potts, Coleman, and Chadwick, and not, you know, Viola Davis. I mean, what was it like, you know, filming that project?
It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, you know, that's the creme de la creme, you know. And I was just glad to be a part of that whole experience. You know, we shot it in Pittsburgh. You know, everything was right. You know, everything was right. I'm familiar with Pittsburgh. I've got family in Pittsburgh, so I had a good time, able to spend time with family in Pittsburgh while we were filming. And so it was all just right on point.
I mean, and it's certainly one of Mr. Wilson's more enduring projects. What do you think it is about his work and this particular piece in particular that have allowed it to just resonate so with so many different people, so many different communities?
It was about it's so about hopes and dreams, you know, expectations, you know, and everybody can relate to expectations. Especially we as a Black people can relate to hopes and dreams and the expectations that if we do this and we do that and we cross our T's and dot our I's, you know, the wall will come down and we'll be able to move forward, you know. And then as you can see, there's a great scene in there where Levy breaks through a door in the movie, crashes into what he thought that would be an exit to someplace else. And what he ran into was another brick wall, you know, just that there was no escape, that there was no place to go. And those kinds of things happen too often. You know, we find ourselves all of a sudden in a space that shouldn't have been there, that should have been a step up. And all of a sudden we're back where we started, and we can see it happening right now in the country. Look at where we have to fight again. It's the same fight. It's the same battle. And so August understands that, and he lays it out where we can all understand it and all relate to it. And that's why.
And of course, it also marks Chadwick Boseman's final performance in a motion picture. Was there any awareness on the set that he, wasn't operating at his, well, he certainly was operating at his best.
Oh, he was operating at full speed, baby.
But that he was dealing with some issues.
Yeah, no, there was no indication at all. And because that last scene that we shot, we must have done 20 takes on that scene where he does me in. And that was a physical scene, very physical. We tussled, and we had to do it as a close-up, we had to do it as a master, we had to do it as a two-shot, camera angle, dip down. And all he would say is, I need one more take, one more take. And I was like, holy moly, who is this guy? I need a breath. Of course I'm an old man now, but shit. I need to sit up. And he was just amazing, his stamina and his dedication to getting it right. So no, he operated on all cylinders through that whole piece, but he was sick the entire time.
Amazing. And we lost someone else, obviously. We lost a lot of people, but obviously we most recently lost
Douglas Ward.
Huh?
We lost Douglas Turner Ward just yesterday.
Okay. Tell me about him.
Douglas Turner Ward, along with Robert Hooks, two men who I came to meet in doing A Raisin in the Sun as a 12-year-old on Broadway. Douglas Turner Ward was one of the characters in the play, actually, and he understudied Sidney Poitier. And he later went on to create, along with Robert Hooks, the Negro Ensemble Theater Company. The Negro Ensemble Company is one of the most prolific theater companies in the country. And many plays and movies came out of the plays that came out of Negro Ensemble Theater Company. Cicely Tyson was a member of the Negro Ensemble Company.
Hattie Winston, a part of the Negro Ensemble.
LaTanya
and Sam.
LaTanya and Sam, So the creator and the founder of that was Douglas Turner Ward. At least he not be forgotten. God rest his soul.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm ashamed to admit I didn't know.
Yeah, just the other day, yesterday. What were you going to ask? You were going to ask me something.
Well, I was going to pivot towards Miss Tyson and ask about your thoughts about. Obviously she was 96, so it certainly was nothing. It was a great life. But what were your thoughts about her career?
Oh, I put on her on my Twitter about her. I said, I'm so humbled and proud that she knew me. That it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And she knew me, and that makes me so humble. She knew me from a kid. She knew we worked together. She played my mother in one piece, the River Niger. She played my lover in another, the Desire Under the Elms, and she knew me enough to call me friend. And I just, I'll never forget that. And I'm so humbled by that point.
With such a long career, has there been two things? Has there been one particular role that just did it for you? And also, has there been a particular window of time where you just were in the zone, just hit your stride and felt like magic?
Well, Gil, I feel pretty good right now.
Well, you should.
I feel pretty good right now. They say a lean dog runs a long race. I feel all right. So I'm not complaining, you know. And as far as any one thing that ever did it, you know, I don't think it's been any one show. You know, there have been different shows that I've been connected to that have spoken well for me. And of course, Coulee High is one of my favorites, you know, and I think it put me on the map more than any other shows, or before any of the other shows, kind of put me on the national map, kind of like a folk hero kind of thing.
And also a different world. I mean, you know, for my generation, that was like.
Absolutely. Different world as well, you know. So, you know, I don't know that I've ever been a movie star or ever, but I kind of feel like a folk hero because everybody kind of sees me as their brother or their sister or their daddy or there's, you know, somebody in the family that they relate to. You remind me of my so-and-so. You remind me of my such and such. You're just like my uncle so-and-so. You're just like, you know, so that means your family. And that's kind of even better than being a movie star in a way.
So is that something that you, I mean, were you ever interested in that, or were you only interested in just studying and perfecting the craft?
I was only studying the craft, but my grandkids would tell me, Glenn, will you stop saying, Granddad, will you stop saying that? You're a star, for crying out loud, Granddad. Stop saying you're just an actor, you know. So.
Now, what can you tell me about this current role you're playing? You're playing a relative of Emmett Till's.
Yeah. This is a very powerful piece here. It's called Women of the Movement, ABC. It's produced by Jay-Z and Will Smith. They've teamed up together. And it's about the Emmett Till story, told from Mamie Till's point of view. Mamie Till, Emmett Till's mother, who wouldn't rest until her son received some sort of justice. You know, she's the one who demanded that the casket remain open, even though his grotesque body lay in it, you know. And as a result of that action started the civil rights movement, called attention to it around the world, and called attention to Jim Crow and the injustices. So we've got a fantastic cast and a fantastic group of people who are behind this.
I mean, does it surprise you that so many social justice issues are still, you know, very much top of mind and front page news for Black people and other communities in this country?
Does it surprise me? No, it doesn't surprise me. It saddens me. But it doesn't surprise me. I know where I am.
But yet you've continued to operate, you continue to move forward, and you continue to succeed. I mean, what advice would you offer to younger people, you know, coming up, not necessarily an actor, but just other Black men who are trying to navigate the experience of being a Black man in America?
You ever heard of the Buffalo Soldiers?
Of course.
Well, I'm a member of one of their offshoot organizations. Fortunate enough to do the movie Buffalo Soldiers with Danny Glover and a bunch of wonderful actors.
I remember it.
And one of the slogans of the 9th Cavalry is "Ready, Forward." And that's my motto. Forward. Ready, forward. No steps back, forward. And that's what I do. I go forward.
What do you want people to say about your legacy?
Say he was a winner.
Now, I know that away from acting, you spend a lot of time out on your ranch, which from what I hear is very lovely. What is it like out there? How do you, what do you do there? How does it charge you up to come back out into the world and climb those mountains?
Well, there's a show coming on tonight, as a matter of fact, on OWN. It's called They Call Me Dad. Mm-hmm. And they did a segment. I'm part of the segment that comes on tonight, so you'll be able to see the show. If you watch it tonight, you'll be able to see the ranch and kind of what me and the family do out there on the ranch. But it's a ranch that we've had for over 40 years now, that we built. And
is it a working ranch or?
Yeah, it's a working ranch. We have horses and sometimes cattle. And I rodeoed professionally for 30 something years, and spent a lot of time with the Bill Pickett Rodeo, which was a black rodeo, invitation rodeo that tours the country. I think you've heard of that one too, Gil, haven't you? And so as a part of being a part of that organization, we do something called Camp Giddy Up. And Camp Giddy Up is a free Western style summer camp that we put on at our ranch. The ranch is called the Nine Winds Ranch. And we put that on, this camp, as a result of a promise that I made to Mrs. Coretta Scott King when she invited my wife and I to a conference that she was having, a peace conference, right after the Rodney King uprising, when she brought people there to try and figure out what could be done to ease the tensions and to offer some relief to the people of Compton and the neighboring area. And I promised her that I would start a summer camp at our ranch and bring kids there. And that was in 92, summer of 92. And we've been doing, well, we don't bring the kids out as much as we used to, but we sponsor kids still. But for 20 something years now, 26, 27 years now, we've been doing summer camp for kids out at our 20-acre ranch in northern LA, the outskirts of Los Angeles County.
Wow. Do you think you'll ever retire?
I keep trying, but they won't let me. they won't. My wife won't let me retire from Camp Giddy Up. Anytime she hears anything about some kids or organization that could use a summer away from the city, she does it, and there we are again, and we've gone so far as South Africa to bring kids out. So she won't let me retire on that end, and the business still is calling me to do these roles. So here I am. Maybe I can get a sitcom next, so I don't have to cry my heart out on these other heartbreaking roles. But they're great roles. I'm not complaining. No, God, I'm not complaining. But retire, I don't know. I'm still here. I'm still going. We'll see.
Sir, it's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.